All right, folks, we're back. Episode 6 of the Craft Impact Marketing Podcast. I am your host, Stephen Beach, and my co host is Faustin Weber. Today, we're going to dive into what it looks like when we start working with new clients. Um, so, personally, I'm doing the sales calls, the exploratory calls when a prospect comes in via our website or if we have a referral. And a lot of times the question comes up, kind of how does your team who works with me? Do I work with Steven? Do I work with somebody else? If so, how do you ensure that there's not a drop off in kind of the knowledge that Steven has accumulated through the sales process? And, how does it work kind of going forward? So to touch on that, uh, we have a small number of clients. Let's start there. We have at the moment 13 RIA clients. And so myself as a co-founder, and then my wife and business partner Tracy as a co-founder, we're personally involved in every client relationship that we have. And for us, we don't intend to get to 100 clients. Our short-term goal would be more get to 20 clients, something in that range. So we're still going to be personally involved in everything. So we deem ourselves the executive sponsors. Fancy title to say, you have my cell phone number. You can text me. You can Slack me, and I'll be personally involved in the project at least when we kick off. But I think, how do we ensure kind of that the knowledge that Stephen has built up about your business and kind of any ideas we've come up with, any potential tactics we've come up with, how do we make sure that knowledge transfers to the client service team, who then will be your main points of contact on a weekly basis? We've worked really hard at this. Honestly, we didn't used to be great at it, but I think we are. I think it's a pretty solid process now, where all of our sales calls are recorded. Those go into an AI project where we can then extrapolate, the key takeaways. We can drill down into strategies, tactics, even like qualitative things like what does success look like to you as the advisor. That you've told this to Stephen, but now the service team needs to hear it. And by service team, I mean like Faustin or another one of our marketing strategists, and then a project manager. So when there's this handoff that occurs, kind of from Stephen to the service team, we have an internal call to go through. Kind of, here's what I've learned about this advisor's business, their growth goals, their challenges, their plans, their timelines, things they've tried in the past, things that have, things that they'd like to try, etc. What success looks like to them, and then when we have our kickoff call with you as the client, you'll be paired up with a strategist and a project manager, who have very specific roles with you. The strategist is in charge of, as the title would indicate, strategy. So how do we align our marketing work to your business goals and make sure that we're focused on the right things? The project manager is there to make sure that when we have 50 balls in the air, none of them fall through the cracks, and that things are getting executed on time and within your budget on a weekly, monthly basis. So we kind of set up from there, and then especially during the first 3 months of working with a new client, I'm in on every meeting. So sometimes there's kinks in the onboarding process that we need to work out that I can kind of chip in on. Sometimes there's just insights that weren't covered in our kind of handoff, that we did behind the curtain, or that we did, on the kickoff call. And I feel like I can contribute there. Definitely involved there. And then I kind of slowly fade into the background. And then what I do is just touch base with you as the client on a quarterly basis, to do kind of engagement, like a informal engagement survey, which would just be to say, how are we doing? Are you pleased with our work? Are we driving enough value? What things can we get better at? And any other feedback you might have. And then we do those conversations one-on-one. So I don't know what else you would add to that, Faustin. I might have missed a couple things, but just overall, that's kind of the high level overview.
Yeah, I would say that was really well said. One thing I would add is just as you start to have those exploratory calls with potential clients, you do bring our team in, and you're very transparent about some of the discussions that you're having, and kind of give us a heads up that it may be coming our way, right? And so we can start to get familiar with the marketing collateral, the website, the social platforms, everything that you're talking about with Steven, the service handoff team has an opportunity to kind of get a little bit of a preview even before we have those internal workshop calls to talk about the kickoff and what the first 3 to 6 months looks like. So I would say that we've gotten much better, to your point, Stephen, about this over time. And our proficiency at using the different AI tools has really helped. I was joking with somebody recently that marketing, in a lot of ways, and maybe most professional services have become a transcript driven world, right? Like we use transcripts for everything. And so the combo of Steven's notes and transcripts of the calls that he has with potential clients, like combined together, consolidated together, can generate a really, really good output and summary that can be turned around with prompts that we've worked on to create a great handoff document to us internally. So by the time we meet with you for that kickoff call, a lot of times clients are impressed by how much we already know, right? Like how much data, information, knowledge has been shared from Stephen over to our team. Because I know this is a point we talk about all the time, Stephen, right? It's like, how many times have people gone and met with agencies and had all these discussions, sometimes up to a year, and then you get turned over to a service team and it's like they're meeting you for the first time, right? I know you've talked about that. I know that's been a pain point for you sometimes and vendors that you're working with. And so we really tried to make that better. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's a big one actually. Yeah, how do I ensure I'm not going to get turned over to an account rep who doesn't understand me, my business, or the industry,
Yeah.
and I don't have to restate everything, you know? So I think as a business owner, one of the real challenges is when you're picking a marketing partner to work with, um, and it's a agency, you know, not just a freelancer, which is, you know, very one to one. It's easy to, there's no knowledge transfer needed, right? The freelancer that you've talked with during an exploratory call or during the sales process knows everything, and they're going to be the one that's in charge. So there's some benefit there. When you're working with an agency, you know, there's benefits of using an agency because we have more tools in our tool belt. We have subject matter experts like copywriters, graphic designers, developers, project managers, strategists, et cetera, video folks, et cetera. So there's a lot of advantage to that. But to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that can be a challenge, right? To transfer the knowledge from, you know, a strategist, or in this case, Steven, who's doing the sales calls, to the client service team who's going to be working with you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and knowing you don't want to have to restate, you know, what you've already said, and you don't have to slow down for people to learn your business or you or your goals and so on. That's a real challenge in the agency space that we've seen. In addition to turnover, you know, account rep
Yeah.
turnover can be a challenge. So yeah, I would just say we worked really hard to solve for that, using the AI tools, using the transcripts, like you said, like we're in a transcript-driven world. I think it's a good way to put it. That helps get us probably 90% of the way there. I think in a lot of cases where it's not just stuck in my brain. It used to be stuck in Steven's brain, and then you know the client service team is like, you know, oh, we didn't understand that, or we didn't even think about that. You guys had already talked about it. You know, we missed this or that. It's 95% of the way there already, just via our transcripts, and then we can plug in the gaps and fill in the little holes. And you know, that's why I'm personally involved in the first 3 months of working with new clients, just to, you know, kind of iron out anything that needs to be ironed out, as we onboard and get up and running and start to adopt your, you know, your brand and your message and take over as your marketing team. So yeah, I think it's a common challenge, and one that we've taken really seriously, both on the, you know, sales to service handoff, we call it, sales to client service handoff, and with our people. You know, we don't have a lot of turnover. We have a team of less than 10 full-time employees, and then several contractors. And we don't churn through people because A, it's expensive, B, it leads to a really poor client experience. And so we take that part really seriously as well. Your team who's going to represent you and your brand and be your marketing department, if that team changes, even half of that team changes, you know, with any kind of frequency, it generally leads to less than ideal results, which we're obviously trying to prevent against. So yeah, I'd say for all those reasons, yeah, we've taken this pretty seriously and improved a lot from where we used to be.
Yeah, nice. Very well said. All right, just shifting gears here a little bit. I know that a question that you get asked a lot, Stephen, is okay, so the service handoff happens. Like, what's the team look like, right? You mentioned this a couple of times, like you and co-founder Tracy are executive sponsors, and then you've mentioned this word strategist a number of times. So I thought it would be good just to maybe talk through the sort of setup we have with our employees for each of our clients and what that looks like depending on the level of engagement that we have.
Yeah, nice. So I think in general for each client, um, what we have is kind of a two-pronged team: a strategist, such as yourself, Faustin, and a project manager. So you might hear other agencies or other groups call this client success manager, account manager. We call them
Yeah.
project managers. The project manager is responsible for juggling all the different tasks and different things that are up in the air, making sure none fall through the cracks. And then the strategist is meant to be, your CMO, your outsourced CMO, someone who's going to align a marketing strategy to your business goals, someone who cares about the results at the end of the day, someone who is there to ensure client satisfaction, that you're getting a lot of value out of our partnership. And then you have myself and/or my wife, who co-founded the business with me, to be the executive sponsor, where we can weigh in and we can kind of be that other layer of support to our team and to you. We have different subject matter experts. That could be a developer, graphic designer, copywriter, video marketing editor, those kind of people. And likely you won't interface with them on a weekly, monthly basis, but there are people who are kind of specialists underneath that primary team that's paired with you, that'll be like executing the work. So, not all the work is being done by the strategist or the project manager. In fact, a lot of it is coming from kind of the support team. But yeah, that team as well needs to understand kind of your business model and what makes you unique and how we go to market and what your brand looks like and feels like and sounds like, etc. So I think there's a bit of a second layer there of people who are kind of supporting, from the back office, if you will. So yeah, it's funny because I used to put more weight on kind of the strategist portion of this, and frankly,
Hmm.
I've come to realize the project management piece of this is every bit as
No,
important,
it's huge.
because
Yeah.
what happens is you get on a call. We'll have great calls with our clients. We're talking about 30 different things, ideas, things in progress, things that we should eliminate, things that have been delegated, things that are in review with either you or with us, et cetera, et cetera. And someone has to make sure that that all gets captured. It turns into action items with deadlines and assignees, and can come back to it the next week or the next month or whatever the timing is. There's a lot of work that goes into that, which is really important because we don't want that makes it such that our advisors, our clients, don't have to think, don't have to keep track of things, don't have to worry about that piece of it as much. That's really on us, that we're managing all that, and you can rely on us to make sure that we're being thorough, and we come back to the right topics in our next meeting. So yeah, I give both of them equal weight now, and that's why I've come with kind of that two-pronged approach, so that we can have kind of the yin and the yang there.
Yeah. From a client perspective, if you had to kind of whittle down what you just said into just a line to describe the role of the strategist versus the project manager, you might say that the strategist is the one who decides and works with you collaboratively to figure out, okay, how are we going to accomplish our goals? What tactics are we going to use? What's our overall strategy going to be to get to our goals? And then what to prioritize in order to get us to those goals, right? But then the project manager is the one that ensures that all those different tactics and all those different prioritizations actually happen. and so it's so easy to talk through, right, what the 3 to 6 month plan is going to look like, but actually pulling out approvals and getting dates set up and calendar meetings set with individual advisors, let's say if they want to have a discussion about a blog article, or checking in on what needs to happen in order for priority C to get pulled across the finish line. I mean, that is invaluable, right? And that's one of the things, that's one of the great pieces of feedback that we tend to get, especially when we're early on in a relationship with a client, is they just so appreciate us taking, here's that word again, the mental load,
Yes, work it
us
in.
taking, yeah, taking the mental load off of the clients to keep track of all of that. And I think you made a really good point, right, Stephen, that someone could spend all day working through marketing, spend time learning the ins and outs of what's working and what's not. But it's a whole nother beast to actually do that yourself and ensure that all of these ideas become executables that are actually published, or things, or content's actually being delivered. And I think that the combo, right, of the strategist sort of deciding what's going to be published on what channels and to what extent, what's priority, versus the project manager making sure all those things happen, has worked out to be like a pretty efficient way of delivering great results for our clients.
Yeah. Yeah, last thing I'll add here is just the kind of the communication. I know we've touched on this before, but we
Yeah.
want our clients to feel like we are embedded in their business, and we do that in a number of ways. But the project manager, among all the things you just mentioned, like scheduling, ushering reviews, making sure the tasks are on time and being accomplished, and going through all the steps that are part of our processes. Another thing that they're really like on the front lines of is communication with the client. So really, you have two people. Ideally, this is happening in Slack as well as email, and of course phone calls. And then we have weekly Zoom calls, especially with our larger clients. We go weekly. With our smaller clients, we go every other week. But in Slack, if you have a question, or if there's something that needs to be communicated, quickly, you're going to see a response within hours at most, from either the project manager, who's kind of on the front lines of communication, or the strategist. So I mentioned that just because sometimes, with a vendor, I've had relationships where it's like you send a request off or you send a thought off, and then kind of nobody replies for a little while, and even an hour feels like an eternity in our society and just in our way of
Yeah.
working. And so even just seeing that somebody says, "Oh, okay, I got it. I'm going to talk about it with the team, and we'll get back to you." And the project manager will be doing that, like taking it internally, putting it onto an internal agenda for us to discuss, and getting back to the client then on whatever the answer is. Even just that, we've seen, like, it kind of puts clients at ease, and that's the kind of relationship that we want. Where they feel like we're right there with them, and it's not like some separate thing. You gotta send a correspondence and then wait for hours or 24 hours or a day, whatever it is, to get a response. It should feel like it's just we're right there. So again, I think a project manager has a big piece in making sure that happens, and ensuring the client feels that kind of embedded approach that we aim for.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so I think we had discussed talking about one more thing today, just in terms of our team, and that would just be our internal structure for how we continually develop as a team, right? And so I thought maybe I'd just talk a little bit about that. So, we have this relationship, right, with our clients where we have a project manager and a strategist, but we're also sharing across internally a lot of ideas and trends and things that are working, and questions and problems. We're able to do that on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis, so that we can stay abreast of all the things that are happening, right? And I just think that's such a powerful thing as an agency in terms of what your eventual experience will look like as a client, because a problem that one strategist may have posed to the entire rest of the team in a structured way on a weekly call that we have set up every week, where we can dive deep into what that problem is, learn more about it. We're already familiar with you as a client because we spend so much time talking internally about all of our clients, and so we already have that knowledge. It's so valuable because that's in contrast to potentially like a freelancer or someone like that. There's a lot of knowledge in the industry that can be shared pretty quickly and that can apply to whatever your situation is. So I just wanted to mention that. I think that there's some great structures that we're still working on, still trying to improve. But we've put a lot in place already that enhance the overall experience for new clients that come on board, and for our current clients that we've been legacy clients with for the last 3-4 years. So what that looks like is we have a daily Slack channel for each of our clients, a daily Slack channel for any sort of learning, research, development, trends that we're seeing. Everyone's encouraged to post on there, to reflect and to think about the things that are being posted and to consume that information. And then we have weekly meetings that are already structured where individuals, either project managers or strategists, can pose issues or problems or wins that they're seeing with their current clients, so that knowledge is shared across the entire team. And then on a monthly basis, we have these coordinated professional development workshops where individual team members can share things that they're learning about, different market trends, AI tools that are being used, things that really worked well for one client or the other. And then finally, on a quarterly basis, we do an entire review, and then we have multiple in-person team meetings each year. And so these structures, I think, obviously they're internal to Craft Impact, but they end up benefiting directly clients that are working with us because we can apply knowledge from one thing that's working, experiment and try it with another client for their particular audience or whoever they're going after. And I think that really, really helps to have that knowledge transfer, especially when you're talking about the financial services industry that's so complicated, right? So I just wanted to highlight that, Stephen, just as part of the overall like team experience, because I think it makes a big impact on the service model that we're able to employ.
Yeah, love it. I think just as a real example of that, like being able to share across our team, what has worked and what hasn't worked and what we've tried for different clients, and sharing that with each
Yeah.
other has been really great. That's really fun for me to see, like even just something, like the SEC's new marketing rule about, allowing for testimonials and reviews and all the nuance around that. It's not a new rule anymore, I guess, but yeah, if we share internally, Faustin, Mary's asking Faustin, or I'm asking, Tracy or somebody else, like, what have you guys done for, soliciting reviews? What have you been able to put together? Um, each firm has their own, rules around compliance and so on, and we get that. But you can easily see across our clients, and now we have a growing list of clients. We've got some really good use cases. Okay, in this case, we were able to send an email invite out and ask people if they'd be willing to share their feedback. We put a video together in this case and then sent that out. We did a follow-up email that actually generated some more reviews that we didn't get on the first round. We then put the review widget on the website. We put it on social channel. We put it here and here. Like, what do we do with it? There's so many different things there just around Google reviews. And starting to see that across clients, I think, is really helpful because, yeah, as you're putting together a strategy, or if an advisor says to us, hey, have you guys ever done anything with Google reviews? The answer is yes, we have,
Yeah.
and we've done it for multiple clients in multiple different ways. And there's pros and cons to all these different things that now we can actually share and say, here's what we think would be best for you based on like what's worked or hasn't worked for other clients. That's just for Google reviews. So I think you could say the same thing for things like on-page SEO, AI search, email newsletters, social media in
Yeah.
general, specifically LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
video. I mean, the
I
list goes
I
on.
w- I would say, like, not to cut you off, but the thing that jumps out at me is like how to handle advisor awards, like the
That's a big
individual
one.
awards versus the
Yes.
firm awards, right? What's the CNBC Top 100 look like versus a Forbes state, like best in state award versus a Newsweek Top 100? And is the licensing fee worth it? And what's the playbook? I mean, that's a big one that we talk about. As if you're listening to this as an advisor, I'm sure you've been hit up 10 times in the last month by different people giving you some sort of award. And so it's hard to sometimes
Yeah.
understand, okay, is this one credible? Is it not? And then what do we do with it if we want to invest the $4,000 to $8,000 in that for the year to actually license it? But that's a perfect example. And the Google reviews one was too, that it's very, I don't know, it's specific to the space that we work in, right? It's a problem that only a marketing agency that works with you guys as RIAs is going to be able to understand. And so I think that that's a really key differentiator, and being able to share that in a structured way is really valuable.
Yeah, I used to think when we first got into this industry, the industry rewards were just a crock, just a crock, a pile of crap, like it's just somebody trying to generate, 3 grand or 5 grand, and you're put on these.
Yeah,
But in some cases, that's still true, right? You can kind of make up a list and say, I've got a top 100 and you're on the top 100, but in order to use it, you got to pay me a fee. Um, so depending on the industry and the publication and the business and so on. But I've also been kind of enlightened by, again, like sharing across clients, like seeing for some of our clients, what we did, I think it was a Forbes award in this case. Our client asked us, hey, is this really worth it? Should I pay the fee to be able to use their logo and, whatever graphics they give me and so on, or is it just kind of a money grab, you know? And then what we did is ask their clients, talk to their clients about how they viewed industry rewards for their advisor, and actually, again, I was kind of I was just enlightened by, like, people saying, yeah, I do put stock in those. Helps me when I see my advisor with that he's, like, being promoted as like a Forbes top 100. It makes me feel like he's, credible, and he's really at the top of his game, and he's staying up on all the industry best practices, and he's, leading from the front, all these things. It's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, in that case, as far as client facing marketing, or marketing to your own clients, it is valuable, at least in that case, for the, given the fee that it was. And then, okay, what do we do to maximize it? Because now you're going to pay a fee. And how do we use the assets across channels, and how do we, make the most out of it, and make a big splash with it, and get people engaged in it? Because we may as well, make it worth our while if we're gonna do it. And then sharing that, yes, I think that's a great example. Across clients, because those come up almost weekly. If not weekly, they come up monthly. There's always going to be, some of these offers that are out there. And so I think, like, what we're trying to do is share our perspective, our ways that we think about promoting and using industry awards, and deciding whether the value is there, depending on the advisor and the business, and who the award's coming from, and what all we're able to do with it. So all that gets baked into the decision: should we pay Forbes 4 grand or not? Seems like a simple
yeah.
answer, but yeah, I think we take it pretty seriously to try to put as much thought into it as we can.
Nice. Very well said. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening or watching. And if you have any follow up questions, feel free to leave a comment on whatever platform you're watching this on, or to send Stephen a direct message on LinkedIn.
Thanks so much.